Aaron Rodgers has packed his bags and he's heading elsewhere, but he's leaving some luggage, some cap ramifications, certainly from Aaron Rodgers and the rest of his band of crew and characters. We're going to explain what that has to do with the New York Jets cap, and we got a special guest, baby. Boy Green Daily starts right friggin' now.
I'm going to lose my gosh darn bananas. Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks!
I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
What's going on, beautiful people? I'm Paul Ested Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your friggin' podcast, you animals. Just search Boy Green, gosh darn daily, baby. And before we get started, I see we've got some activity happening here on the show with Mother Effing Chew gifting a Boy Green Coffee Club membership. Pour one out. And he ain't the only one. I see our number one Austrian Jets fan, baby, also getting involved in the action. Hey, now, that's what we like to see. Those two new members to the Boy Green Coffee Club are OG Jets fan 1985, and also let's give one out for DB94. Those are a raffle ticket apiece for a number one Austrian Jets fan, also MFC. That increases our number one Austrian Jet fan to 94 raffle tickets so far this month, and MFC with 7. Thank you so much. We could flip the banner here in just a moment. We also have a very special guest joining us, popping his Boy Green Daily cherry, baby. That happening here on the program in just a moment. But I wanted to give a quick salute to our number one Austrian Jet fan in MFC. By the way, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We're doing 2 giveaways right now. Once we reach 7,500 subscribers, we're 75 subscribers away from that. It's free to subscribe to the channel. We'll be giving away a free piece of New York Jets memorabilia, autographed New York Jets memorabilia to one lucky subscriber. And also, we got this giveaway going on, all you raffle ticket goers. That'll be going on throughout the rest of February. We're giving away a New York Jets signature football, New York Jets Nike Salute to Service long sleeve, and a custom laser engraving Jets Boy Green gift package extraordinaire, for Pete's sake. So keep sending in those raffle tickets. They're only $2.99 a piece, so super chats, memberships, gifting memberships, all that jazz all counts. Also, with all that being said, let's bring in our special guest to talk all things New York Jets. You know who this guy is. He's the co-host of Jet Nation Radio, and I must, of course, read this very important line. Be sure to log into jetnation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the gosh darn web. Dylan friggin' Terriman graces us with his presence this morning. What's up, Dylan?
Paul, so happy to be on. I appreciate it. I love the salute to Glenn, giving the line about our forums on jetnation.com, which you should become a part of because it's a rabbit hole for good or bad. So happy to be on. Usually these pods I do are 7:30 p.m., so adjusting. And I got the coffee set up, but I'm ready to go. This is going to be fun.
Beautiful. I see that you got the fresh Senior Bowl hat on. You got the Senior Bowl merchandise back there with your media credentials. It's great to see you're well equipped.
Absolutely, yeah. Year 4, so I got 4 lanyards sticking up there.
Nice.
The Swiss cheese one is the most recent one, but yeah, year 4. I feel like I'm a grizzled vet down in Mobile now, and it's only a matter of time before they call me up to ask for my scouting reports, right?
Ooh, hey, that's what I'm talking about, baby. We'll definitely pick your brain about that in a moment. But the most pressing question since Aaron Rodgers parting of ways, again, I guess it will be officially official once we get to the new league year, is what the hell does that do for the Jets cap situation and what's going to be happening there? And for people who don't know, the early reporting is that the Jets are likely to release Aaron Rodgers with a post-June 1 designation, and to do that, they must carry him on the roster until March 12th. Then they will cut him, and then he will be released and can sign with any team. He's allowed to talk to any team right now because the Jets officially announced it their intention to part ways with him. So he's allowed to talk to teams right now, but just can't sign until he is officially released on March 12th. So they're going to have to, if they choose to do that post June 1, they're going to have to split the remaining dead cap of $49 million over 2 years. That would be $14 million in 2025, $35 million in 2026. In that scenario, his current cap number of $23.5 million will be on the Jets books until June 2nd. It drops to $14 million, which will give him a savings of $9.5 million for 2025. I'm not sure what the hell is going to be available in mid-June to use that money on, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Like I said, he will be free to sign with teams on March 13th. He is allowed to speak with teams immediately. The other option is they can release him right now, and that would mean they absorb the $49 million in dead cap all right now, and the same accounts if they were to trade him, which again appears unlikely. Let me start there, Dylan, with your opinion here. Would you eat it all right now, or would you split it if it was up to you on the dead cap charges that exist with Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I was asked this question by Glenn on Thursday, and my opinion at the time was that it didn't really matter. I think either way, you have to find a cost-effective quarterback to offset the heavy dead cap, regardless if you're taking the 49 now or 14 this year and 35 next year. Since then, the last couple of days, I've kind of sat on it and thought about it. I'd prefer them to split it up, only because you take the 14 this year, and it allows you to have a quarterback, probably a veteran, on your books for 2025 without exploding the percentage of cap that you're using at the quarterback position. I look at guys like Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, the 55 and up group, the 50 million group. Their percentage of cap is like 30%. I don't want the Jets to be paying 30% of cap space for quarterbacks that aren't here or aren't going to produce. So you take the 14 for Aaron Rodgers, you bring in an $8 to $12 million veteran. You could still sign a guy in the draft. You're looking at a room that doesn't cost a ton. It's probably going to be about 24% of your cap space, which obviously keeps going up every year. So I think I've kind of changed my tune and said, let's take it on the back end instead, because next year you would assume that the Jets have their starting quarterback in place on a cost-effective deal, and that would kind of mitigate the 35. So I would take the 14 now instead of 45 all up front, because we saw the Broncos do it, but they hit on their Hall of Fame coach and quarterback. So unless you think the Jets can replicate that to a T, I'd say split it up and take 14 and then 35.
Yeah, and then the other factor that I think agrees with your stance of splitting it up is the cap goes up every year. Shit, let's say the cap goes up $20 million. You're pushing this Aaron Rodgers can down the road of the $35 million that we talked about. The cap goes up $20 million. Then, in theory, to you, it's only a $15 million hit of what you had, and you're like, oh, okay, it's a little bit more reasonable. Yeah, I was the advocate of let's just take our medicine now like a good boy and sit in the corner and take all the dead now. But same thing. The more marination I do, that obviously behooves and benefits the Jets immediately for contending and competing. Again, sometimes you get lucky and you get a talented rookie that just blows up and you just eat the dead cap and then it all works out. But, that's easier said than done, I suppose, as far as that's concerned. And also, where did you stand on Aaron Rodgers staying or going? It's a very divisive topic among Jet Nation.
Yeah, and I've already seen the comments blasting
Yes.
people one way or the other this morning.
Yes.
I was very much in we should probably bring him back. It's not a surprise. I'm a huge Rodgers fan since before he came to the Jets. So it's the guy that I've looked up to as a quarterback, because the Jets don't have quarterbacks to look up to, quite frankly. So I would say I was in the camp of keep him. Although when Saul was fired, I immediately came out and said, nobody's safe. Joe's not safe. Aaron's not safe. A lot of the young core might not even be safe. And obviously we're seeing those arguments take place currently about the young core. But yeah, I was very much in the mindset, especially watching the last 5-6 games. Obviously, I know Buffalo and Seattle was grouped into those 5 or 6 games, but I was very much of he looks healthy. Let's bring him back. Second year off the Achilles to me sounds a lot better than, first year off an Achilles. I understand the age ramifications, but I also have some of these same people telling me that Kirk Cousins is going to be better on a second year removed from his ACL. And I understand there's
Achilles,
7 years. Or Achilles, yeah. I understand they're 7 years apart, but Kirk Cousins is just as washed up as people who said Aaron Rodgers is washed up. So to me, I was very much, let's keep Rodgers for one more year. It kind of relieves the onus to find your quarterback right away. I think Aaron Glenn now has, he turned over the hourglass, and now the sand is falling on his time to find a quarterback. Not to say he can't do it, or, but we know what happens when coaches fail to find their quarterback. It usually doesn't go well. So I was very much of, let's run it back one more year, try to, retool instead of rebuild. But obviously they had different plans. I'm not going to, say fire Aaron Glenn, fire Muji just because I disagree. But I think until we know the quarterback in place to replace him, it's hard to reserve all of my judgment. But I disagreed with it for sure.
All right, let me ask you a quick aside here. Are you trying to take the Jets' best beard game among Jets podcasts? How long have you been growing that thing? It's like, I'm not quite threatened. I've got like some great girth going on here, great color, great volume. But, I've noticed that you've sort of been, manifesting that for a while. Yeah.
I mean, when this is all you can grow, you got to kind of take care of what you can. There's nothing coming in over here. My mustache is so small. So you got to take care of what you can, right? You got to water the grass in the yard that you have, regardless of how small it is.
Oh, yeah. Blessed be he. There's no question about it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're damn straight I do. How could you miss that puppy? Again, we got Dylan Gashdarn Terriman, baby, the co-host of Jet Nation Radio here on the program. Make sure you guys, again, be sure to log into jetnation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web, or so I've heard. So feel free to do that, baby. Keep those questions and comments flowing, baby. Any super chats for Dylan and myself, we'll make sure we answer those. We'll also open up the phone lines here in just a little bit. So, okay, everyone says, hey, fire this guy, fire this guy, fire this guy. The follow-up is, well, who the hell's going to replace him? And, hey, we got Tyrod Taylor, Ty God. We got Jordan Travis. We got former UFL MVP Adrian Martinez. So maybe we're all set, baby. Maybe we don't need anything. But, Dylan, who is your most optimal, whether the one you're rooting for, the one that you're banging the table for, should be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets in 2025 is whom?
Starting quarterback, I'm going to have to give you two names because I do genuinely think two people will start for the Jets next year. I think it would be Tyrod and Justin Fields. I would love a room of Fields. I guess I shouldn't say love, but I would accept a room of Fields, Tyrod, and I'm a big rookie advocate for Will Howard. So I know everybody's going to say, oh my gosh, Ohio State Buckeyes, they don't know how to, have quarterbacks come into the NFL. I obviously would argue with CJ Stroud, but if you get two Buckeye quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Will Howard, to mix with Tyrod Taylor, maybe they all three end up starting a game in 2025, which isn't really, ideal. But other than last year, we've seen this, especially since Sal has been hired. 3 quarterbacks start every year. So it looks like we're kind of trending back into that path. But I would say right now, the one that would tickle my fancy the most would be Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, and then you go get yourself like Will Howard at pick 92 or something like that.
Let me ask you real quick, because you just mentioned something that I love bringing up every draft season. My good buddy Jordan Reed, he's now an ESPN NFL draft analyst. He's a bigwig now. We'll have him on the show, I'm sure, at some point before the draft. But he always said to scout the player, not the side of the helmet. And to your very point, right? Ohio State quarterback, there's all these stereotypes with certain colleges and certain positions and all that. How do you look into that? Because, right, outside of CJ Stroud, unless you're a big Troy Smith fan, I guess, where do you stand on those evaluations? Because they come up every single year. It's Ohio State quarterbacks is a very prevalent one, but there's all kinds of things like certain colleges and offensive linemen, and some of them can be good. It isn't always bad. Some are good too. But what do you make when that comes up? Is that all hogwash when fans bring that up?
I think so. I mean, to me, people only say scout the helmet, not the player, when they're talking about somebody who they view as bad, and they're just going to push the narrative of, oh, this school doesn't produce quarterbacks or wide receivers. All it takes is one to reverse the trend. I can't think of the example of like a smaller or unknown school guy that like made it and everybody's like, oh, that school doesn't produce. But all it takes is one guy to come out and change the entire narrative about things. I thought CJ Stroud was going to do that coming out of Ohio State. So to me, that's one of the very first things I write on my prospect database is gather as many names as possible, scout the name, not the helmet. And then, from there, it's like injuries, transfers, captain awards, off-season opt-outs, things like that. So it's very important on the list of things because you catch yourself doing this. It's like, oh, I watched an Ohio State quarterback last year, or I watched this wide receiver from this school last year. I already have a bad taste in my mouth because of that. So this wide receiver is going to get knocked. I think it's easy to just wipe everything clean. I don't even look at, unless it's like late into the film, I don't look at time, distance, certain situations when, I'll go back and look at, okay, was that a third down? Was that a first down? Whatever. But there's a lot of times I take so much context out of the film just so I can watch the player himself. And a lot of times you look right through the helmet. So I think it's important for people who are trying to get into this stuff to not take a bias one way or the other, because you can have a happy bias and say LSU produces wide receivers at such an insane rate. Like,
Right.
I don't care that Kyron Lacey just killed somebody in a car accident. I'm going to take him anyway. So
Yeah.
there's negatives and positives to it all. I think it's very important to scout the player, not the helmet, because people fall into that quite often.
So with that being said, why the hell are you on Will Howard? Oh, Willie. Why are you on Willie? Big Willie.
So this week I've done a ton of studying on Will.
Okay.
I just got access to more film that I wasn't aware of that was out there in the world. So I've found 13 games of Will Howard film. I've watched 6. I have 7 left to go.
Okay.
To me, I mean, they're all in that cluster of like third round.
They are? You say they all.
You're right.
Who's they all?
Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, Kyle McCord from Syracuse, Will Howard from Ohio State, Jalen Milroe even from Alabama. And specifically with Dart and Milroe, when I was in Mobile, I was really coming away with, okay, one of these guys is going to be the trade up target on day one. Yep. They're probably second round talent right now, but they can improve their stock. To me, I don't think either one did. And if anything, it made me solidified in my stance of 2 quarterbacks go at the top, Shedeur and Ward, and then you have a drop off until probably pick 65, which is the first pick in the third round. And that's where I feel the most comfortable taking that group of guys, Dart, Milroe, Ward, McCord. That's funny, Howard and McCord. So I would say they're all lumped into that group, but Will Howard, to me, maybe it's just a recency bias if I've been watching him all week, but his mechanics, his processing, the size element, he's 6'5", 235. This is going to get absolutely blown up in all the worst ways, but it's okay because it's 7:30 in the morning.
Sure.
I liken the way that he plays football to a very, very light version of Jalen Hurts. The way that he can maneuver with his mobility, it's not great, but we saw Jalen can run. I've seen too many plays where Will Howard turned a 4-yard gain into like a 7-8 yard gain, and it didn't need to be. He put his shoulder down. I think he can throw the ball all over the field, except his deep accuracy and his deep pass strength. I think those are his 2 weaknesses for me. But the mechanics and the poise and the calm in the pocket, that's something to me where even Alabama Jalen Hurts, was showing that. But then Oklahoma Jalen Hurts really showed it to me when he was able to link up with CeeDee Lamb. And then you just see that poise and that maturity grow into the NFL. And I'm not saying Howard is going to mirror Jalen Hurts' career to a T. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is a special talent. Sure. But Will Howard, to me, has those traits where it's like, okay, on 3rd, 4th, and 1, you need a tush-push guy. I've seen Will Howard do it 6 times now already, and he's gained probably about 4 yards on every tush-push, and they're not really pushing him. I don't know if the college rules are a little different, but it's a lot of him generating that yardage. It's not the running backs pushing him from behind. So to me, if you want to mirror what the Eagles do, I would say grab a guy like Will Howard, because Jalen's 6'1", Howard's 6'4", but the way that they run, the way that they play football, to me, it just kind of speaks the same. So I'm a huge fan of Hurts, and I think that would be a great 3rd round option. Obviously, Hurts was not a 1st round pick. He was pick 51. No. I don't think, you take Howard that high, but if you really think that, if you agree and say that you can see some Jalen Hurts in his game, I don't know, maybe it is worth a late 2, but I still think early 3 for that entire cluster of quarterbacks.
So is Will Howard on the board at 92 when the Jets are picking late in the 3rd round, which is the Detroit Lions' 3rd round pick from the draft trade last year?
Yeah, I'm probably, depending on what the other quarterbacks look like. I mean, maybe if Dart is there, I would consider it. I'm just not a big fan of his mechanics. I think he throws off his back foot a little too much. There's plays that are being clipped out on Twitter that, oh, look at this great NFL Sunday throw, and it's him standing in the pocket delivering while taking a shot. And it's like, Okay, in the NFL, though, half a second less time, he's taking that hit. He's throwing wobbly. He's probably getting picked off. So there's things to like about Dart. I have to fully dive in. I've only done 2 games of Dart. And now that I have the new film, I have 10 more games. So it's a long process. I wish I didn't have to spend so much time on quarterbacks, but this is the most important position of football, of all of sports. So I'm going to take my time on these 2 guys specifically because I think at the end of the day, the Jets are very likely to grab one of the 2.
All right, let's get into some of your Senior Bowl action here before we open up the phone lines, and all you guys can yell at Dylan to his face, which we appreciate to give that ability to you guys. YouTube.com/boygreen25. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I can't wait to tell June my actual age because he told me I'm 9 and look like Connor
I saw that.
Long.
Yeah, I saw that. So I'm very much looking forward to that big reveal, that teaser. I saw that from June. Oh boy, yeah, June's very passionate, so I'm looking forward.
Oh,
to
I
that
love
call.
June.
Yeah, that should be yeah.
Random sidebar. I was watching content one day and
Yeah.
June called into all the shows and every time he had a different Jets hat on and I swear every hat got cooler and cooler. So shout out to June.
Okay.
You're dedicated. I like it. I like the merch too.
I've seen him do this before. So, like, June, even on this show, has worn multiple hats. So he's worn a hat one time, and then he, normally callers call in once and then they leave. And, that's fine. Give everyone an opportunity to share. But for some reason, someone wanted to then call out June. I'm like, oh boy, June, wherever you are in the universe, sometimes he hangs out in the green room, but sometimes he'll call and then just leave. And someone called him out. So wherever he was in his house, he must have heard it went and then like ran to his computer, but had a different Jets hat on. I never said anything. I just went a head nod, like okay. He's like, hey man, it's a different appearance, a different op. So
the job of a GM to wear different hats sometimes, right?
Apparently, and that he has, and bags. I don't know if you saw that episode, but bag at June GM lasted a little bit after that Aaron Rodgers incident. So he can, oh boy, yeah, it went south pretty quick. I'm going to be honest, but anywho, let's get some Senior Bowl action in. So you got to go down to Mobile. You said you've been there. This is your 4th whack at the Mobile, Alabama Pinata. By the way, what the hell's going on in Mobile? Okay, obviously we got the Senior Bowl, but like outside of the Senior Bowl, like Senior Bowl practices aren't all day and night. What are you doing when Senior Bowl action isn't happening, Dylan Derriman?
Yeah, so the whole week is Monday to Saturday, but I only go Tuesday through Thursday. So okay. I only go for the practices. I don't go for the games, and that's not to say you can't take anything from the games. I prefer to, expedite the trip back and get back for Monday to get back to my normal job. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you got practice, two practice sessions. You're able to do interviews in between on field, which is always a madhouse. But shout out to our buddies Dom C and Jets Chaos because they get in line super fast. They get down on the field and they pump out those interviews. So you get the interviews between practices. And then the nightlife, I mean, you could really do whatever you want. You could stay in and do content. You could go in, downtown and go to the bar. I chose to go to this bar called the Haberdasher on, I believe, Tuesday night after the first set of practices. And I'm sitting there eating my steak, just enjoying my drink and talking to some guys that was their first year there. And they're leaving the bar and they turn around and their eyes are wide, like they just saw a ghost. And they come running back. They're like, hey, Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero are coming in right now. I was like, okay, like I've seen these guys. It's not a big deal. It wasn't just them. It was Ian. It was Tom. It was Jeremy Fowler, Lindsey Rhodes, Mike Mayock, all the ESPN guys, Matt Miller, Matt Bowen. There was another Idzik was there. Dimitrov was there. Like all these guys just started flooding and women, started flooding the bar. And I'm sitting there eating my steak and I'm like, oh, okay, let me just push this to the side and join in on the conversation. And I've met Matt Miller before in years past at Mobile meetup events. So
nice guy.
I was joking with him a little bit. He remembered me from the meetup too, which is cool. But it's that random in Mobile where you could just be sitting alone and then all of a sudden you're flooded with some of the most famous, I guess, media outlets in the sport. And I spent another 45 minutes in the bar and I didn't have another drink, but I just sat there and listened and talked and just enjoying the conversation. And then that's kind of my favorite part of it, to be honest. Like you walk past like general managers that aren't getting access to the bars because they're so full. but the bouncer doesn't know that that's Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah from the Minnesota Vikings, that he just
Right.
said, sorry, we're at capacity. So it's just so funny that like and then the former GM group of like Dimitrov, Idzik, all those guys kind of like clustered walking around together in Mobile, and we were calling them the formers. We were joking around. So it's funny because like these guys want jobs back, and obviously Dimitrov interviewed for one, and then we hired Rick Spielman, so he's technically another former. So you just never know who you're going to run into in the nightlife, and I think that interactions and those engagements are probably like, second to none. Like I would do that over going to practice most days if I could just sit there and pick the brain of a lot of these people.
All right, let me ask you, because I think it was, who did I just have on? I can't remember any. I guess we do a show every day, but there was someone that frequents the Senior Bowl a lot. Oh, it was Russell Brown, who frequents the Senior Bowl a lot. And I asked him about what you just talked about, right? You're at the bar, or, you're at this bar and you're enjoying your steak, and there's all these friggin' famous people. I'm sure you'd love to talk to all of them. Like, hey, Rappaport, you want to come over here and share some Jets tidbits and stuff? So what is the proper social etiquette for that event? You've been there 4 times now, so I'm sure from the first time of hubbada to time number 4 of being there at the bar, what's a lot? Are you just allowed to walk up to any GM and start rubbing elbows and talking it up? Is there like a, hey man, at certain points you're allowed to talk, certain points you're not? What's the social etiquette there, Dylan Terraman, when you have all these big ass famous people currently in the NFL, players, all this other stuff?
So my anxiety doesn't allow for this to take place, but yes,
I see.
formally, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go up, say, hey, Jeremy Fowler, I really follow your work. My name is Dylan Terraman. It's great to meet you. And then he'll say, hey, Dylan, nice to meet you. And then he'll probably forget my name in 5 minutes, but I'm so like nervous in crowds of people, especially people that I've been following on Twitter for almost a decade now, that I happen to find Will Parkinson in Mobile, and he's very, very good at I'm just going to go say my name and introduce. And he's talked to a lot of these people before. So I've kind of found myself weaseling into his conversation, just
smart.
inputting, hey, I'm Dylan. Nice to meet you as well. So I'm not good at introducing myself. So how it happened at the bar was the ESPN guy. It was either Matt or Jeremy Fowler came up and said, hey, are these 2 seats taken? And they weren't. And I said, yeah, to everybody but Matt, they're taken. And I met Matt Miller. But Matt Bowen, and I don't know if you've ever seen him, he's a bit taller. He's bald. He's got like that like head coach look on his face, like he's gonna like scream at you. And I was like, whoa, Matt, I'm sorry. I met Matt Miller, because he looked like he was getting ready to like chew me out for saying he couldn't sit there. So that was how I broke the ice with them. And then it was just kind of easy to talk.
Did it get a laugh?
Yeah, no, Matt got a laugh.
Okay.
Bowen kind of smirked at me until he realized that I was talking about Matt Miller, but at first he was not laughing, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "I gotta be careful of who the Matts are in this group." So
right.
That was kind of my icebreaker with them, because I knew Matt. But other than that, yeah, you have to go and break the ice. Like I walk up to, I say hi to Connor and Trevor from Stock Exchange. Sure.
Yeah.
I joke with Connor, actually. I'm like, dude, it's not like I can't say I went to the Senior Bowl until I had a discussion with you at practice. And then I check it off my list. So it's always cool to see those guys. But yeah, you have to have the oomph to go say hi to them, because even if they recognize you, they're not going to come up to you.
Of course not. Right.
Even like maybe somebody like you, because you are recognizable. You've had these people on your pods. Maybe if Connor saw you, and Connor's such a nice guy, he would say, oh, hey, what's up, Paul? And, recognize you. But for the most part, they have this happen to them all week, that you have to go and find something to joke about or say, or try to stand out in a way. So that's the tough part for me, is trying to break through that barrier of I have to go introduce myself and just not care.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask you this. You can feel free to punt on this if you want, but I hope you don't. I hope you go for it. Come on, man. Come on, Dylan. Okay. Who is a person that like, again, you name dropped a lot of people, right? Trevor Sycamus, Connor Rodgers, some of the ESPN people, NFL Network people, what have you, that you in your head, right? We all put these people on a pedestal, right? We follow them on Twitter for information, everything. And you're like, oh my God, look at this guy. And then you meet him, you're like, oh my God, what a dick. Like, oh boy, this was nothing what I set it up to be, which is sort of horrible, because now forever you're going to have that memory ingrained in your head. You're like, man, after that encounter, I wish I would have never met you. So I just pretended that you were still this whatever thing I put you on the pedestal, who is someone that you had pretty high up there, and then you met him at the Senior Bowl. You're like, what a dick.
That's a tough one. Because everybody is like overly polite because
that's
they have
nice.
to be. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they almost have to be because.
But you can tell if it's fake.
Yeah, and I don't know if I want to say the name.
No, I'm just kidding. You can tell me off air, but
I can tell you off air. But yeah, in 2022, there was a moment with somebody related to a team in green and white that I wasn't really enthused by the the reaction I got. He was nice, but I felt like he was being a lot nicer to the other people in the group than me specifically. Maybe that's just a me thing, but yeah, there was one guy specifically that I felt, and this was 4 years ago now. So, but I saw him again and I said hello, and everything was more cordial this time, but it wasn't a full conversation. But yeah, I think there's one person specifically that I can tell you off air.
Okay, so yeah, make sure you remind me of that after. But also, just in general, can you tell when people like have like? Because I haven't been there, so it's on my bucket list. I hope to do it one day. That would be amazing.
Oh, can't wait to see you down there.
Oh, my God, that's going to be so cool. Like, for instance, like Connor Rodgers and, like, some of these people I've known for, like, 10, 15 years, but, like, I've never met them before. It's only been these virtual interactions. That, to me, is going to be wild, so I can't wait. I'm going to be like an uncaged animal down there in Mobile, Alabama, so watch out, everybody, whenever I show up. Can you tell when people, like, don't give a shit and they just do not want to have a conversation with you? Right, again, to your over-politeness. Yeah, thanks, Josh. It's Paul. Yeah, whatever. And then just like,
or they look right through you.
100%. Yeah.
And a lot of that is timing. I think a lot of people have to understand when the practices are going on, it's not the best time to try to pick somebody's brain because they're trying to just watch the game. So in that 10-minute of interviews on the field with players, that's when I kind of walk around and try to have my conversations of, hey, who stuck out to you at practice? And even on like lower levels, I won't go up to like another content creator and start having a conversation mid-practice. So there's times where I've walked up to a guy at the wrong time and you could just tell he wasn't that interested in any conversation at that time. But then, you get him a couple minutes later when there's a down period or special teams is going on and he's more willing to talk to you. So yeah, it's a lot of timing, but you could definitely tell the people, like, especially some of the higher up media guys, like they don't care what your name is or what outlet you work for, or they don't care that you're about to ask them to come on your podcast. They just want to enjoy their practice.
I see. And then give us the good one. This is a fun one that I'm sure is easy to tell here on the show. What's an interaction that it can either be you held them in high regard and they delivered when you met them, they're at the Senior Bowl, or maybe you had like little to no regard. You're like whoever, and then they over deliver like, wow, that was actually a nice guy. How did give us one of those for the Senior Bowl before we open up the phone lines?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to 2022 when the entire Jets group was there. That's when the
Jets
Lions and the Jets were the stabs there. And I was walking up the stairs and I noticed Rich Samini walking across the top of the staircase. And I let him go. And he was, we're doing the whole you go, no, you go first, no, you go first. So I was just surprised that Rich was even willing to play that game with somebody. Maybe it's because I was wearing a Jets shirt at the time, but he was very polite and he was like, no, you go first. And I was like, sir, you go first. Like, I know who you are. You go first. And then I
so you didn't say, go ahead, Rich.
No, I don't like, calling everybody out by their name, but like, I'll be respectful and say, hey, I obviously recognize who you are. And then I look to the left, dude, the entire Jets beat was there. And they were all just looking at this interaction go on with me and Rich. And I'm like, hey guys, how's it going? Like, I'm not going to call everybody out by name, but it was like, Hughes and I don't even remember all the people at the time. There was Janae Coakley was there.
Nice.
Like there was just so many, like every single, because the whole beat was there. But it was nice to see Rich in that, manner, because normally people would probably see Rich and think, oh, he's just an old stick in the mud. He doesn't really want to talk to anybody. But he was very friendly just in that small interaction. Maybe again, because I was wearing the Jets shirt. But Rich definitely surprised me.
Okay, there you go. I love it. People keep liking the video, hitting subscribe. We're about to open up the phone lines, baby. And like I said, you can yell at Dylan in person. He'll tell you your age and his job and whether or not he likes long romantic walks on the beach. All that and more coming up. Let's play a quick hep song here, and we're going to open up the phone lines next right here on Boy Green Daily. Feel free to call in to share your thoughts, questions, or anything for myself or Dylan. Let's go.
Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. Talking just football, man. Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. the New York Jets Football Club. Wow. Offense, defense, special teams. Watch the Super Bowl season with Boy Green. Jets, Jets, Jets.
There you go, baby. Thanks for the song, Hep. Again, you're watching Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show. We've got my handsome, sort of bearded fellow co-host here, Dylan Terriman, for God's sakes, co-hosted of Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. We got a lot of callers calling into the show, but let's start with the entree. The guest we've all been waiting for Dylan and this guest to be on the show together. And I'm looking forward to the information that's about to be spilled. June, the GM, is here on the show. What's up, June?
What's going on, Mr. Paul? Hey, listen, just for all you Met fans, I'm from the Bronx, New York, baby. I'm a Yankee fan. This is a Knicks hat. Don't disrespect.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thanks for the clarity there. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I had to make sure that.
Please.
So, Dylan, first of all, I'm impressed. You look like you're 9 years old. It's crazy. Okay? You must have been covering Jet stuff since you were like 2.5, which is impressive. I did want to ask you, there's a couple of things I wanted to address, but one thing is, how did you start covering the Jets? Because you look extremely young. I'd like to know that.
I appreciate that. I turn 30 next month. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah. I've definitely benefited from the looking young. For sure. I get ID'd everywhere I go for anything, really. But yeah, I just started. I moved down to South Carolina from New Jersey in 2019, and I was looking for a new full-time job. And in between, I said, hey, I love the Jets. I love, talking ball. My friend and I, we'd talk just on our headsets on Xbox, every day about football. So I was like, dude, why can't we do this about our teams? He's a Packers fan. I'm a Jets fan. So when I moved to South Carolina, I was looking for full-time work, and I just emailed, I think it was Jet Press, Jet Nation, all those top outlets at the time 5 years ago. And I just said, hey, I don't have, college writing experience. I was like, I did okay in high school English classes. I can write. I was like, but I feel like my knowledge of football is, at a level where I could benefit and you guys could benefit from having me on the pod. And Jet Nation just said, hey, we will take you with your experience. It's a volunteer position, but we'd love to have you come write. And it started just, small writing. The first article I wrote was the Adam Gase hiring article. I had to edit in a paragraph about Adam Gase getting an interview with the Jets. And I was so excited to do my research on Todd Monken and Aaron Glenn and Cliff Kingsbury. And then editing that, Adam Gase paragraph in sucked. But then, fast forward another year later and they needed a fill-in on the pod. And all of a sudden I was like, hey, I'll come on the pod tonight. I have nothing going on. And back then we used to call in on our phones to blog talk. We weren't on YouTube or anything like that. So I was just sitting on my phone for 2 hours like this. And then we upgraded to the YouTube space in 2022. So I've been with them for about 5 or 6 years now. I guess it's 2025. So almost 6 years. And it was all just because I randomly said, hey, I want to, write and make content for your website. And they took me on. So I'm super appreciative of Jet Nation, everything they've done for me. But yeah, it was all about just, trying to put my foot into the door and keep it open.
Well, it's one of those things like I tell you, Paul, my favorite saying from Al Pacino is a risk not taking risk. You took the risk. You took the East Coast hustle with you up there to South Carolina, and the rest is history. Much respect with that. About Will Howard, he does throw a pretty ball. We can't forget that Jalen Hurts actually developed his quarterback ability under the great Lincoln Riley when he was with my Sooners. I'm a Sooner fan. He betrayed us. Yeah, I'm still hurting. For me, for any quarterback in this class, and even next year's class, because all this can't miss stuff, Trevor Lawrence was also a can't miss prospect. He was the Greek god Adonis with the long golden hair. And he's all right. For me, more than anything, it's who's going to develop the quarterback. I'm wondering, is Tanner a developer of the quarterback position or just a play caller? That's interesting. What y'all think about that?
Yeah, right now I would have to just lean that none of these guys have done it before. Engstrand, Scott Turner, the quarterback's coach who was a former running back. Charles London. Yep. I don't think that there's a history of any of these guys developing a quarterback.
Which is scary.
With that being said, though, I think Engstrand, with everything he's seen in Detroit, could potentially be that guy that could key in on a quarterback and say, hey, I like XYZ traits. I can work with that and let's roll. Again, that's putting a lot of faith in a first-time developer of a quarterback. But I think if you're going to look at a guy who's going to be the developer, it would be Engstrand and then maybe even Scott Turner, because his experience as an OC, it's kind of helpful, but he hasn't worked directly with quarterbacks. So yeah, I would say you're putting a lot of hope into it, but Engstrand would be the guy that you would look to be the developer.
And real quick, I'm just going to throw this question in because I see it in here. Mooch was the quarterback. Was Tanner also? Yeah, they were all in the quarterback room. It was Tanner Engstrand. It was Darren Moochie. And it was our boy Kevin O'Connell. All three of those were in the San Diego State quarterback room for a period of time. So all former quarterbacks. Yes. Back to you, Jim.
No, that's interesting right there, because we do know that that's an interesting quarterback room. So they know a little something about quarterbacks. See, for me, my late round flyer will be Milroe, and only because I like the fact that he went through a lot of pain in Alabama, right? It wasn't the Nick Saban ran Alabama. It turned to shit really quick down there. I understand he's not a pass off the ball, but neither was Lamar Jackson. Neither was Jalen Hurts coming out of college. They wasn't looked at for the cannon and the accuracy of an arm. But Milroe has the one trait that no other quarterback in his draft class has, aside from Cam Ward, which is natural, gifted athletic ability. I feel like it will be a threat to hand off the ball, because whatever quarterback we got, we don't need him. Don't get fancy. Hand the damn ball off to Hall. That's what you need to do. Turn around, hand the ball off, make a play with his legs. Milroe can do that. And then as time comes on, hopefully he can progress into a nice passer. I'd rather have a young Milroe than an older, what's the kid's name? Justin Fields.
Justin Fields, yeah.
Very similar games, but give me the younger legs. I'll take the younger legs, and I feel it's a little bit more explosive. What you guys think about Milroe?
Yeah, as you were talking, I pulled up my scouting report on Milroe. Right now, I have him, and this was pre-combine. I have a low second-round grade on him. I was ready to be impressed in Mobile. Obviously, I wasn't impressed with any of the quarterbacks. That being said, I do think there's a lot of things to hang your hat on with Jalen Milroe. If you want a guy with traits, I mean, the speed is uncoachable. The decision-making, I think, got better as the season went on. I know the Michigan game happened, and I think that was his last game of the year. So it's kind of hard to end on such a sour note, but I thought his decision-making got better. His poise was okay in the pocket. Obviously, his escapability out of the pocket was a plus to me because of his athleticism, where a guy like Shadur Sanders, he has the athleticism to escape the pocket, but he usually waits a half a second too long, and then he can't get out of the pocket. So Milroe does a good job of getting out and actually looking for the pass. Although I do think when he scrambles, he doesn't keep his head up downfield to throw. He more becomes a just takeoff runner. Whereas Will Howard, he'll keep his head up and look for the pass downfield. So there's a lot to like about Jalen Milroe, a lot to dislike. But going back to the coaching point, we haven't had a guy develop a quarterback, so that's probably a negative for Milroe. But at the same time, you have a former running back as a quarterback coach. So if you can, tap into that run first mentality and then bring along the passing upside of Milroe, then yeah, sure. I think you could convince the Jets to be the team for him. I think you need to have a really solid plan in place for Milroe, and the environment needs to be probably a B+ or better. Talking about your supporting cast, wide receivers, offensive line, run game, which all need to be improved. So I think Milroe is a fun prospect, and I wouldn't mind it, but there's just too many variables where you have to rely on a good coaching staff and a good environment, where I'm not necessarily sure the Jets can put all those things in place for him.
And Dylan, real quick, Dylan, you said a low second round pick. Just to clarify, you mean that translates to a late? Yes, late second round pick. Okay, yeah, I just want to clarify. Go ahead, Jim.
Let me ask you a question, Dylan. So I brought up this name I want to say maybe around 3-4 weeks ago. Everybody thought I was crazy. His name ain't coming off the top of my head right now because the caffeine hasn't kicked in just yet. I'm a little older. It takes me a second. Yeah, right. But what did you think about the quarterback that came down from Canada, the 6'6" gunslinger?
Oh, Rourke, right?
Rourke. No. Tanner Elgersma from Laurier.
That guy.
I want your opinion on him. What you think about him?
He was okay at the Senior Bowl. There were 7 quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl, and I don't think any of them really stood out to me. Tyler Shuck from Louisville stood out. Elgersma, I mean, he did okay for playing quarterback for 6 years, and most of it was at the Canadian level. He'd never really played American football. So Dom C brought this up to me, but he's used to his wide receivers getting a head start and calling hike as they're running past the line
Oh,
of scrimmage.
wow.
That's how Canada
Wow.
works, right? So his
Wow.
timing was completely off the first few days, and that makes sense. He's just not used to a wide receiver starting at 0 miles per hour and then getting into his route. So there was timing issues with him. I thought he threw the ball okay. I mean, he has an over-the-top release. He's not more of a sidearm guy, so he had the arm angles, but I like his natural
Did the ball
release.
jump off his arm? Did the ball jump out?
See, that's the thing. It didn't pop. To me, none of the,
Mm.
and I think he's like a 26-year-old prospect. So like he's more of a grown man again amongst boys in
Like
that
the Bo
group. So
Nix.
yes, and none of them really had that I need to separate myself mentality. I'm going to go do that. So El Guerzma kind of just like fell into the mix of the rest of them, and there was no real like positives or negatives. He's probably an undrafted guy if I had to be fair, just because he's so green, 6 years at the position. He is, I think, a little bit older. I think he's 23 already. So like there's negatives to work against him, but yeah, no, unfortunately no quarterback really solidified themselves to me at Mobile.
And being that you've been at Mobile, you said this is about your second or third year straight at Mobile?
Fourth year.
A fourth. Okay, so is it safe to say, let's say you're a quarterback prospect that might be getting drafted. Do you think that, because I've heard this before, you think that Mobile is a good look? Because it seems like there's so much going on, so much pressure. You're playing with receivers and running backs you're not used to playing with. If you're a top prospect, would you even skip that and just focus on a combine, or would you still go down? Because it seems like people hurt their draft stock out there in Mobile.
And I would just add, I think the combine's the same thing. Those are a lot of guys that you haven't played with either, and that's just going to be bigger. There's going to be more people there. But go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, I think if you're speaking specifically from a guy like Cam Ward, who's already looked at in the top 5, it probably doesn't help to go there. And I know there was a lot of Miami guys, Aurora, the tight end, Restrepo, the wide receiver. They had a couple linemen, and then Damian Martinez, their running back, was there. And I feel like a lot of those guys accepted on the belief that Cam Ward would actually be there, and then he ended up not going. So a guy like him who has his stock already solidified, I'd say it'd probably hurt. But then you look at a guy like Will Howard. He came off the national championship a week before. I understand he's probably banged up. He had the this weird thing on his left hand that they pointed out at the national championship game. So there's probably an injury, status to him on that one. But he was a guy who I thought could have came in and been that 8th quarterback to light it up. Riley Leonard was there, the loser of the national championship, obviously.
Yep.
Sorry,
Notre
Paul.
Dame.
I don't mean to pull up
Oh.
stuff like that. But Riley Leonard was there, and he lost the national championship, and he had the same amount of time off as Will Howard, and he didn't look great, but that's not to say Will Howard was going to look bad too. So if Will went in and had a good week at Mobile, I think he could have been like that early 2nd round, maybe even back end of 1st round guy like Jackson Dart is being talked about, because I really wasn't impressed with Dart, and I think the Charlie Weiss tweet is going a little bit further with Dart than most people think. So I wasn't impressed with him, but yeah, there was room for any quarterback really to come in and impress. But I guess it depends on what your pre-draft process grade is. Like if you're getting a high 1, you probably don't need to go. But Bo Nix, he became a mid 1 because he went and he performed and he did okay compared to the group. So I guess it would all depend on where your pre-draft grade goes.
And last question, Paul, if you don't mind, sir. Being that we got, someone from Mobile, I want to pick his brain as much as possible.
Yeah, we're all enjoying it, yes.
Is it safe to say that the defensive lineman, that in terms of draft, this is the deepest position in the draft, the defensive line, because for me, our Jets need the most help there.
Yeah, no, this is definitely the deepest. I don't remember who said it, but they compared the number of defensive linemen last year to this year, and it was like 20-something last year, and it's just over 40 defensive linemen this year invited to the combine. So the NFL is viewing this also as a very defensive line rich group. I'm in the camp of go 7 and 42. Defensive line. If you want to get an edge at 7, or if Mason Graham falls to 7, you grab that guy, and then you just go the inverse in 42. So you get your interior guy, then you go get your edge in round 2. I'm very much an advocate of that. I think this is the draft class. You got interior guys like Darius Alexander from Toledo. He's probably in that 2nd round grouping. Let's keep scrolling down. Abdul Carter obviously would be the preferred name if he dropped to 7. But I like interior guys like Alfred Collins from Texas, Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College. He was an edge rusher down in Senior Bowl who had a good week. And
what
then
about that kid from Marshall?
Mike Green.
Mike Green. So if Mike Green would be a guy where, 7, yeah, sure, the value might not say it's the pick. It's probably a reach there. But if you want to get cute and drop down 3-4 picks to pick 10, 11, 12, and then go get Mike Green, that's probably dead on where his value is. But if you're going to try to get cute for 4 picks, you might as well just take your guy there. And dude, Mike Green is a special prospect. I know the clip of him versus Josh Connerly is going viral, but Connerly was playing out of position that day. That's right tackle. He normally plays left tackle. So they put the offensive lineman in a bad position in those drills. But Mike Green's motor, if you match that up with a Will McDonald and a Jermaine Johnson, that's truly a scary trio. So yeah, I'm all for D-line in rounds 1 and 2, to be completely honest.
Wow. Nice. June, thanks for all the conversation. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Dylan.
There you go. And we found out Dylan's age. There we go. Check that off the bucket list. All right, let's go
Probably
back to
10
the
years
phone.
older than he thought.
I'm going to be honest. It's at least 30 years older than I thought, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose. Anywho, let's go back to the phone lines. We got Indy Jets joining us next. What's up, Indy?
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
I hear you're from South Carolina. What part?
I'm not from, but I lived in Spartanburg for about 3.5 years. And then in 5 more weeks, I'm actually moving back down to Spartanburg. So I've been kind of bouncing back and forth between New Jersey and Spartanburg the last 8 years.
Okay. I'm near the Rock Hill area. So, that's the north side. Yeah.
Yeah. You're 45 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I really like the Will Howard pick. I think that's where we need to go. But tell me what you think of bringing in a Daniel Jones and pairing him with Will Howard.
Daniel Jones specifically scares the crap out of me.
Doesn't it though? That's a Jets move right there.
Yes. No, that would definitely scream we don't learn from our mistakes and we're just going to watch the crosstown team screw it up and then think we can be the ones to save it. I think his best option was to probably be in Minnesota to finish out the year, be around a competent coaching staff. Daniel Jones is probably done in the NFL for me. I don't see him being a starter in the league. He's probably a backup. Done as a starter. If the Jets wanted to, no. If the Jets wanted to bring him in and say compete with Tyrod as the backup behind somebody, sure. But now how many quarterbacks are you adding to the room? You can't add Justin Fields, Daniel Jones, and a rookie, have 4 quarterbacks with Tyrod and all compete with each other. I still think somebody will give him a try, maybe just a camp, try out and at least compete for the second spot. But I would hope it's not the Jets, to be honest. We've just seen too much of a sample size where he's not going to be our Sam Darnold.
Well, and they kind of said that about Baker for, a few years ago too, though.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And so I would laugh if they did it, but I'd also understand too.
Yes. I think there's reasons to feel better about it than a complete unknown, like Hendon Hooker or somebody like that.
That would absolutely be a waste. Yeah. Or even a Jameis Winston. I would think I would take Daniel Jones over Winston, other than the entertainment factor of, we could probably throw for 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions again.
Yeah. Do you want 30 interceptions to come with funny post-game press conferences, or do you want 30 interceptions to come with a disgruntled Daniel Jones? So yeah, I could see it. I could see that. Yeah.
So my next question is, okay, so we have a defensive-minded coach again. So, and I hear you say, you would like to go for a defensive lineman and an end for the first round or two. And my thought is the exact opposite, because I think Aaron Glenn did some amazing things with all the injuries that he had up in Detroit. So I think that he could take a 3rd round prospect defensive lineman, the big guy from Kentucky. I think he's 340.
Oh, Deion Walker. Yeah.
Deion Walker. You might be able to get him in a later round, and a guy like Aaron Glenn and his staff could turn him into
raise his level. Yeah, so you don't need the high picks. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and let's focus on what we've always lacked over the years. Some offensive weapons, and continue to, we don't necessarily need the defensive, the high talent guys in the first round, because we've got the high, the coaches can bring out the best in them, just like Saleh did. But we didn't have the offensive talent. And so what do you think about, focusing that first round, second round on on a wide receiver, a combination, a wide receiver tight end. We go tight end and wide receiver, vice versa, and bring some more talent in and go, okay, now the offense has got some talent, the high end talent, and let the defensive coaches bring up some of the other guys and get the best out of them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Aaron Glenn shouldn't need 11 blue chip talents on defense to make this thing go. So yes, I can agree going offense to a degree. My thinking with this draft class specifically is you have to look at where the blue chip talent is and then decide where can I marry that up with my needs. So if you want to go wide receiver or tight end, I would assume you're looking at like a Tetairoa McMillan or a Tyler Warren at the first round pick. I'm okay with McMillan at 7. I think it's a little bit of a reach, but not by much. Warren, I'd probably be out on just due to positional value. My thinking is, can you find 80% of a prospect in rounds 2 or 3 that you're considering in round 1? So to use your argument, if I'm looking at Mason Graham at pick 7, but I think there's a defensive tackle in rounds 2 that I can get 80% of the production for, I would probably lean towards going defense in the second round and then change my stance in the first round. Now, you can't get cute and do that for every position because you would talk yourself into the 80% version of Tetairoa McMillan in the second round if that existed as well. So you have to look at where the board lines up blue chip wise versus where the Jets are picking. And to me, there's just too many blue chip defensive players in the top of this draft where you probably have to take one if they're sitting there instead of reaching for an offensive need. But in another past classes, the wide receiver position has been stacked. So I would 100% agree with this if the draft class was aligned that way. I just think there's too much talent on the defensive end at the top where the Jets are picking to go against that. But yeah, I agree. Your original point is absolutely true. We should be attacking blue chip offense talent and then supplementing with mid-round defensive talent because that's where we know the strength of our head coaching and just defensive coaching staff is.
And what do you think about an offensive lineman in that first round or two, and just solidifying the right tackle right from the very beginning?
I'm okay with it. I like Will Campbell a lot. Some people think he's going to be more of a guard at the next level, so it's a bit of a tough one again, where the board lines up with the position and the Jets' needs. You're probably looking at a bigger gap between him and like the Ariante Urseries of the world. So maybe you'd have to trade down to feel like you're in a good slot to get an offensive lineman. I just want the new regime to do what Joe Douglas hasn't done and find an offensive lineman outside of rounds 1 or the early parts of round 2. Maybe find that 3rd or 4th round tackle who can be your swing guy with developmental upside to be a starter in 2 years or 1 year when Morgan Moses leaves. So I'm okay with offensive tackle at 7, but if it's not Will Campbell, it's probably a reach. So I would, again, probably look elsewhere and attack that position a little bit later.
All right, on the spot. Are we trading up? Are we trading down? Are we staying at 7?
I think they stay at 7, but if it's me, I trade up for Cam Ward before I trade up for a late round guy. Like the Jackson Dart rumor at 31, I would prefer to trade up from 7 to like 3 to get Cam Ward than trade from 42 to 31 to get Jackson Dart. So I would trade up for a quarterback. I think the Jets stay put, and then trading back for, I mean, you could trade back all day. I just don't think that the Jets will find a partner.
Right. All right. Appreciate you guys. Good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Indy. Appreciate you. All right. Let's go to a super chat here. We got this from Phil. Every time we get a super chat, maybe we'll hear from my daughter, Zariah Luna. Wow. Damn straight, Zozo. All right, let's get here. Phil asks, thanks, Phil. And by the way, we put this towards your total for a raffle ticket, so appreciate it. Where does Cam Ward go in the 2026 draft? Is he the 4th best? And I would also add in this additional question, because I guess you sort of just talked about it here. But before we even get to Phil's question, Cam Ward, what's your prediction of where he goes in this draft?
3 to the Giants, I think is probably fair. I think Shadur.
Is that
Travis,
his floor?
No, I think that's fair. I think it's fair.
No, I'm just asking an additional question. Do you think he goes no further? Like, where's the point of no? Like, Cam could go number 1 overall, but he won't fall further than 3 or something. That's kind of.
I hope he doesn't fall further than 7. I would say that I don't think he falls further than 6, just because I
Right,
think Vegas
Raiders,
is so
yeah.
starved for a quarterback. Obviously, things could
Yeah.
change. They could sign Darnold.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say the floor for the quarterbacks at the top would hopefully be 7, because if one of them's staring you in the face and you have the chance, you got to just do it at this point. Take the swing without having to pay for it. So yeah, I would
Correct.
say his ceiling is 1, his floor is probably 6 or 7.
Okay, and then let's answer Phil's question specifically.
Yep.
A lot of people have hyped up, and we'll get there eventually, Jet fans, you sick bastards. But, a lot of people have hyped up this future 2026 classes. Oh, baby, that's where you need to get a quarterback. So I don't know what work you've already done looking ahead to that class or what you know, but where would Cam Ward go there?
It's so tough. You don't know how this is going to go. Everybody seems to already assume that Arch Manning is going to be the number 1 pick next year.
Right.
I don't think that's anywhere close. Like Trevor Lawrence, we knew for 5 years that he was going to be the number 1 pick in his draft class whenever he finally came out of Clemson, and that was the case. I don't think that's the case with Arch Manning, and I don't know if there's other quarterbacks that are supposed to do this. Like, I don't know, man. Like
Let's go. Let's go this one then,
Sure.
because I think to your point, that's incredibly difficult to say. Sometimes we say, "Oh, Carson Beck's going to be the number 1 overall pick this year." And now what are we talking about? Obviously he went back to college. So let's go this draft class that just happened, where 6 quarterbacks went in the top 12. Where would Cam Ward have gone in this draft class that just happened? We just had Bo Nix and all these other, the Chicago Bears kid, Caleb Williams, Jane Daniels, all that. Where would Cam have gone in that class?
Yeah, so I think that's probably the easier question. And I'm sorry, Phil. I mean, it's just so hard to guess like the unknown.
No, sure.
But I would say that he would probably be 4th in 2024. You have Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, whatever order you want to put them in. I know some people were Drake May was number 1 for them. So I would say 4th. I think he's probably going to be looked at a little bit better than JJ McCarthy and a little bit better than Bo Nix. It seemed like Sean Payton just loved Bo Nix and he wasn't going to take no for an answer. So it seemed like that was the cliche. It only takes one team with Bo Nix, and that seemed to obviously be a hit for them so far. So I would have to say QB4 would maybe be where his consensus ranking is. Of course, that is, so team dependent that the Jets could have him 6 or the Patriots could have him 2 or whatever. So I would say comfortably 4. But now that I'm looking at the names for next year, dude, he might even be 1. Like Drew Aller to me, like, I don't know if Drew Aller, he could have a good year. He could have a down year. Cade Klubnik from Clemson, don't really love. Moss Miller, USC, LSU's Garrett Nussmeier, like they're okay quarterbacks, but like it's so hard to project. And any of these guys could have like the Joe Burrow type year in LSU, where he went from a 3rd round pick to the 1st overall pick.
Jaden Daniels, right?
Yeah,
100%.
exactly. So you just never know. So it's too early to tell, but I'd say he's probably, he's in the top tier of next year's group, but last year's group, I think he would probably be the first one of that 2nd tier for sure.
All right. I see Taylor Sterling said, I just dropped in. Y'all are talking about upstate South Carolina, my neck of the woods. Yeah, we had 3 former South Carolinians or current on the show. I lived in South Carolina for a long time in Goose Creek and Somerville, baby. AJ Green, wherever you are, go Green Wave. There we go for AJ Green being in my town of Somerville.
I talked about moving down in 2019. So the first 2 guys that I scouted that year were Quinnen Williams, because I knew the Jets were in range to take him. And then the second player I scouted was Deebo Samuel, who was literally from the 864 Spartanburg. So
that's
thought it was so cool. And then I immediately just fell in love because he was a great player.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, Dylan, I know we've went past your timer. We have more callers. Do you want to dip or do you want to stick around?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Okay, well, one more. All right. Philly, because you've been waiting the longest, cup of Philly noodles. You're up.
What's going on, man? Dylan, you look like my white cousin.
That's a good point. Look at this. What the hell?
I'm in North Carolina, Charlotte right now, so it's almost fitting.
Oh, okay, my brother lives right by Charlotte. Yep.
Look at that.
Hey, we're gonna need some sort of a DNA test. Happen here.
We know the difference is he didn't want Rodgers and I did. So it sounds very brotherly though to have one be so polar opposite, right? So we could be related.
Dude, it has to be. You know what I'm saying? All right, just a few things to get across. Tanner Erkstrand. I think a lot of the nuance of what's going on with him is that it looked like the Lions weren't ready to keep him. after Ben Johnson left, so it makes people weary about him. But he's been around QB since 2009 in his entire career. So I'm not worried about that. What I'd like to know over so the nuggets that we don't get is the war room stuff. Where could him and that staff could have been with QBs ranked over these few years recently, right? We know they took Hooker as a project because he has a cannon. So they valued the arm still, the arm talent. He is mobile, but the arm talent is what I think stood out, and he was on a run for Heisman during that year. So to me, they got a value, right? So I want to know, who did they evaluate the last 2 years? We don't know, right? So those are things like, if you get those nuggets out of these guys, you'll figure out what they kind of like. Like Bo Nix, Sean Payton married himself to him, right? But Muji would have, Muji and that whole staff would have never been like, whatever you want, Sean Payton, or maybe they did, but it worked out. So, you know what I mean? I think I've been saying it. I think Muji's got he's got the cojones, he's got the grapefruits, and he put him out there and he said, hey, Ron, you're not that belt guy no more. You're not flashing the belt. You're not in those commercials. Patrick took that from you. We're sorry. You got to go. Keep it packing. And we're going to go trade up. That's what I think. In that press conference, it was like a statement. He kept looking at those cameras saying, Woody has said what he wants, and we know what we all want in a common goal is to win, win. And it didn't look like win in 5 years. It meant win now and sustain that shit. Keep it running. So to me, it means dropping the hammer, going up. If you can't get up, to me, I feel that's where you got to draft a D lineman at that first round. Then, like, if Mason Graham falls, snatch him. If Abdul Carter falls, snatch him.
Oh yeah.
But then to me, it gets a little weird because Walker keeps falling down on draft boards. I don't know if anyone noticed that.
Jalen, the Georgia kid you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he keeps dropping down. If he drops down, like if he looks like he's going to drop, I feel like the Jets should come back out, let him drop, snatch him up, and see if they can use some type of movement of picks and then come back in and grab something else. That you see a safety, a corner, because the safety room is atrocious. I don't think people are realizing how bad it is. And I don't think Glenn is just going to sit there and be like, I'll make do with what? There's nothing there, man. Ashton Davis. Let's be honest with ourselves. That's not a leader on that side of the ball. So I'm kind of weary about what's going to happen 100% of what they feel together in that war room. Now, the only thing I want to know from you 100% from the Senior Bowl, 2 positions. How deep does that tight end class really look that we just say forget Warren because it's too heavy of a draft pick, and wide receivers? Did anybody stand out at all?
Yeah, so I'll go tight ends first. That was definitely the deeper class at the Senior Bowl. You had guys like Elijah Arroyo, who just showed off his ability to catch, strong hands, especially in the team red zone period. He had a play where he snatched it over the DB's head, and then he turned around and punted the ball into the practice stand. So I thought that was funny.
Look at BG. BG loves that. Look at
yeah. So although it's not the blocking type tight end that I know we absolutely need, I think Elijah Arroyo is a fun one to watch. Bowling Green's Harold Fannin Jr., another guy who you could probably get in the 3rd or 4th round, who just a special talent. Again, he's 6'4", 245, or 6'3", 238, excuse me. These guys probably aren't going to be your blocking types, but if you wanted the blocking type, you go get a Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech. And that's, everything that we were promised with Rucker and then some. I think, you're not going to get much of an upside in the pass game, but this guy's going to dog you out in the run game. He's going to kick you out of the club, be an extension of their offensive line. I know the Lions use Dan Skipper as their 6th offensive lineman, but we have their tight ends coach now as our offensive line coach. So maybe they put emphasis on blocking tight ends so that we can use eligibles to block instead. So I like Jackson Hawes a little bit. And then a sneaky guy who I think is a bit of a tweener at 6'5", 265 is Maliki Matavo from UCLA. I think he could do a little bit of both. So there's definitely some options just from the Senior Bowl that I like. Now, wide receiver gets a little bit trickier. This is, I guess, considered a down year comparatively to the, massive wide receiver classes we've seen in history. But the top guy to me is Jack Besh. 6'1", 212. he just had a monster week, down in Mobile. He caught a touchdown in almost every day of team period. He ended up catching the game-winning touchdown at the end of the game for the American team. And I think just his story goes a long way because his brother was tragically killed in New Orleans during the terror attack right before the Senior Bowl.
Right before the Bowl.
So everybody was like, they had the 7 patch on the back for his brother. I think his name was Tiger. And it was just a cool moment for him to like celebrate with his family after the game because it was like exactly a month since his brother passed. So Jack Bech is one who is a big riser. I had no idea who he was going down, and he just put himself on the map, and now he's like a top 45 pick. So like I think he's well in that range. Jaden Higgins, 6'3", 217 from Iowa State. He's to me one of the perfect complements to Garrett Wilson just from a size profile, but he's also a smooth mover. He had an inside slot route where he cooked the DB on a free release, just a little stutter step, and got out. And he had like 4 yards of separation in the one-on-one period. So I like Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. I'm trying to give taller profiles of wide receivers. I can give you Jalen Royals from Utah State, who's 5'11", 210, and just say, oh, this is the Deebo Samuel type of the draft. I don't think that way, but everybody loves to cling to those, and I just don't think the Jets are going to covet that, having Malachi Corley. So another, I guess, bigger body wide receiver, Horace Brew McCoy from Tennessee, 6'2", 215. He didn't really do anything like exceptionally well at Senior Bowl, but he did everything to an okay level, in my opinion. So it's not the star-studded blue chip 5 deep at the top of wide receiver. You're probably going to have to get cute in rounds 2 through 4. But I definitely think that there is potential to pair a free agent wide receiver with a draft wide receiver.
Now, in your opinion, this will be the last question I ask you. And I've had backlash against this. Aaron Rodgers, when he, he's seen Corley in camp a little bit, saw him on the practice squad. Then he saw him on the field, dropped that ball for that touchdown. They had him, I think, maybe 2 other games, run a couple of routes. Do you think he was a victim partially of the Rodgers, we can't have this guy in the field, just give me Gibson, because he doesn't, he won't do that foolish shit that he did. Excuse my language. You know what I mean? Like, because in my mind, I want to know, it looks like Corley then, if you understand what you just went through, Corley stands out as a higher prospect still than these guys that are coming out this year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think Joe Douglas would definitely say that maybe Malachi Corley would be wide receiver 1 in this class based on where he had last year. I think Malachi Corley was like the perfect storm of bad circumstances for him. I mean, you have a coaching staff that's just completely incompetent, that can't use you properly. And I'm not saying he needs to do the Elijah Moore orbit motion under Mike LaFleur 87% of the time, even if he never touches the ball. But if I saw that play happen 5 times a game and Malachi got the ball 1 or 2 times out of those 5, I wouldn't mind it, right? I think a lot of stock was put into him fumbling the ball at the goal line, and then we heard the maturity quotes from the coaches, which you never want to hear. But I just think everybody in the building last year was, to be candid, immature, like coaching staff, players, front office, clearly, if you were moping. So I think it was just a set of poor circumstances. And now you have a guy like Engstrand who used Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams and all their 2 running backs, Gibbs and Montgomery. So I think there's a chance that Malachi Corley is still special. I loved him in the draft, so I'm not going to, throw my bias into this. So it's more wait and see, but I would definitely not, count him as wide receiver 2, but I definitely wouldn't say, okay, he's going to get cut by camp and somebody off the street is going to take his job. I think he could be a wide receiver 3 for this team. Competent.
And Philly, real quick, like, we can't just blame that being the problem. That Jets-Texans game was on Halloween. What happened the first insert amount of weeks of the season where Malachi Corley was MIA? So I don't think that could solely be to blame for the issue.
And we're talking about a coaching staff. Completely. We're talking about a coaching staff that didn't use Garrett Wilson properly for the first 2 or 3 weeks of his career. That's what I'm saying.
I brought my young daughter at the time, who was months old, and my fiance. I'm like, let's go to the Jets-Ravens season opener. I'm going to show you Garrett Wilson in person. I brought my family there. It was raining to all hell. I did the tickets wrong where we were right in front of the rain. So just as the rain was coming down, it was pouring on our heads.
That's
And
happened to me.
the layover water was coming over, and the seat right behind us was bone dry. And so my fiance was just looking at me like, psh, psh, psh. And then Garrett Wilson didn't even start the game. I'm like, what the hell?
Yep.
So
yeah, that
it
3rd and 9. That was it.
So how about this? Do you think? Oh man, I would love it. You think we go and get Debo or Cup and get rid of Corley in a pick?
I would hope not. I don't think you want to get rid of
expensive, too rich.
I think so, but you don't want to get 7 years older at the position when you're giving away an unknown commodity. Like Malachi Corley could easily have a really good career and maybe even a potentially better career than those two. I mean, Cooper Kupp had the 1,000-yard season and then struggled to stay healthy. Debo, kind of the same thing. He had that 1,000-yard season, and then ever since they put the running back stuff into his contract, they'd stopped using him like that. So, like, you used your guy how he should be used, got the best results, and then decided to say, nah, never mind. So they're both over 30. They've both had injuries. I would just keep the young guy and save the picks.
10-4. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Later,
Philly
guys.
Noodles, for joining us. Dylan, thanks. There's more callers. I'll answer all those, but I'll let you get away. Remember, I'm going to still need that intel. Either call me later or I'll give you a smoke signal, something. I got to hear that Senior Bowl story. Who the hell were you talking about? So I'm going
Private chat people can see it, correct?
Other yeah, they can. Yeah, so do not put it in there.
PM me on Twitter, coming right now.
Yeah. I was just about to say, please do not put it in there.
Oh, that would have been rough.
That people can see that. Yes. Yeah, people that call into the show can go, oh, that's what he was talking about. So I appreciate that. Oh, yes, real quick before we get you out of here, a lot of people are asking, where can we follow Dylan? So, Dylan, give all the plugs. Shout out June. Thank you for that. Dylan, where can everyone follow you on social media to hear more of your great takes? We really enjoyed you on the show today.
Yeah, follow me at Dylan at D Terriman, down the bottom of the screen there under my name. Or you could just follow us at Jet Nation on all social media platforms. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We probably still have our MySpace up and running because we've been around for so long. So jetnation.com, get in the forums. It's kind of a wild place to be. You'll see any take that you could find under the sun about this team, good, bad, and different. And yeah, just keep following me on Twitter, and I'll be putting out draft profiles probably once the combine's done. I got the Will Howard video ready to upload once I get the combine stats because I need to know full measurables before I can commit, because if his hand size is like 8.5 inches and he's well under the threshold, I got to change a lot of my evaluation. So yeah, at D Terriman, and I'm happy to engage with most Jets fans.
All right, and last one, Jet Nation Radio. Again, you are a co-host of that as well. When is Jet Nation Radio? When during the week? What days? What times? Give us all the details.
So Glenn will put out a solo video randomly whenever he feels, but our normal weekly show is Thursdays at 8 p.m. on our YouTube channel. So check us out at Jet Nation. We're not quite up to the caller level yet because let's just say we keep our opinions in house. We don't like to always have outside opinions, but we love interacting with the group chat. We had a bad interaction with a caller once before. So
I'll have to hear that. That's another Twitter DM. I'm going to need to hear that story too.
Left a bad taste in Jet Nation's mouth. So we're a little restrictive, but we will interact with anybody that chats in the live chats. So check us out, Jet Nation, 8 p.m. live, Glenn Naughton and myself.
All right, beautiful. Dylan, thank you so much for taking the time, and I imagine this will be your last appearance on Boy Green Daily.
Absolutely not. I appreciate it, Paul.
All right, there he is, Dylan Terriman. Make sure you guys follow him again, co-host of Jet Nation Radio. Check him out on jetnation.com. And again, I'll give another plug here. Be sure to log into jetnation.com, where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web, or so I hear. So make sure you let us know. I see we have more callers waiting. I will continue to answer those calls. There is no Dylan. He had to move on, but I appreciate his time dedicating that to the show. Real quick plugs. We got 450 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe. Again, we have 2 giveaways going on right now. First off, I'll give the free one. We were at the start of this show 75 subscribers away from 7,500. And once we reach that, I'll be giving away a free piece of autographed New York Jets memorabilia to one lucky subscriber. We'll randomly draw as soon as we reach 7,500. We'll randomly draw whoever that subscriber is. I'll reach out to you, and then I'll mail it to you. So, booyah. And then also, of course, we have our giveaway for people who purchase raffle tickets to be eligible for that. Throw it up here on the screen. Signature football, full-size NFL football. Comes to the pump. Display it in your office or fan or man cave. Limited edition collectible. Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Quinton Williams, Quincy Williams, all signed up. New York Jets Nike Salute to Service long sleeve and a custom laser engraving Jets Boy Green package. Raffle tickets are $2.99 a piece. There's no limit to the raffle ticket. If you buy a Boy Green Coffee Club membership, you enjoy supporting the show. You purchase that right now. You have a raffle ticket in, and you get all the access to Discord, our members-only videos, and so much more. Now, with that being said, let's get to the phone lines. We'll go to everybody who's been waiting the longest here. Johnny Boy joins us here on the program. What's up, Johnny?
BJ, what's going on, bro? Good morning.
Hey, good to see you, first and foremost.
Oh, you already know it, man. Hey, yo, shout out to MySpace, bro. My man brought a throwback on there.
That brought memories. That brought a lot of memories there. Yeah.
I hope you're on his top 5 list.
That's what I was just about to say. That's what I was just about to say. You know, especially with his age, I didn't even know that he knew what MySpace was. But yeah, there you go for Dylan Terraman. But yeah, I'm hoping that I was in the top 5. I was the featured 5 on his profile page. That's what I was hoping. Yeah, we'll see.
Yo, major throwback on that. Nah, I was calling because I wanted to pick his brain on you know, pieces that I think that are very needed in the for the football team itself.
Yeah.
That we're not talking really much about because I think it's just, you know, QB, and DTs. But the linebacking, like what are the players that are what are the players that are out there? What about the safety? Philly kind of hit on it a little bit, right? Because I think that's a big need.
Yeah.
And then the corners. Like I've been doing a little bit more in regards to that. You know, a name that I like a lot that nobody's talking, and I think he's a linebacker that there's a that could potentially be something. The kid out of Dame, Jack Kisser, he was one of the finalists for the Campbell Award and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of those players are very smart up here, so that's a player that I would like. Play is nice. I can never pronounce his name, bro. Ole something or Dego or whatever it is. But Jalen Reed as a safety, I don't know if you guys have done any research in regards to him. He's another player that I believe we should try to look up to get in the later rounds. But I wanted to get your thoughts, BG. Like, who are some things that are out there that you think that's a potential look for us? Safeties, linebacking core, as well, and corner. I mean, just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would just say right off the top, linebacker is something we're not talking about at all. So Jamin Sherwood's a free agent, so obviously got to circle him. Quincy Williams is heading into the last year of his deal. He's going to want buco bucks. The Jets, it just worked out perfectly. They give him this deal for 3 years, $18 million. Everyone goes, oh, man, what an overpay on Quincy. And Quincy's immediately awesome. And they were like, oh, my God, what a steal. Because the top of the inside linebacker market right now is making between $20 and $19 million per year. That's Fred Warner and Roquan Smith. So it's $20 and $19 million per year. Think about that for a second. So let's just call it the watermark is $20 million. Quincy Williams making $6 million a year. The highest paid is making $20 million a year. So Quincy's going to want a bag. Are the Jets going to pay him? Ooh, I got no freaking clue whether they're going to pay him. What about C.J. Mosley? He's probably going to retire or maybe even get released. And if he gets cut, he might be a June 1 post cut. If they did that, the Jets would save $4 million, but they eat $8.78 million in dead cap. You're only allowed to designate 2 players as post June 1 cut. So if they pick Rodgers as one, C.J. Mosley as the other, they'd run out of post June 1 designations. Another possibility for that is Allen Lazard. So 100% you need linebacker. No one's talking about, Johnny, that 100% is a need because, again, you have to have foresight. You're not – that's also a common misconception of the draft. It's not like obviously quarterback, we need a quarterback, but like running back, like Breece Hall, what are you doing with him? Whether he's coming back or not a year from now determines what you're needing for that. So you're not just drafting for 2025. You're drafting for the future. The GM is thinking multiple steps ahead of roster construction, and linebacker is a massive one that they 100% need. I'll be curious if they try to bring Jamian back. Obviously, there's no more ties to his coaching staff, but he's a young player with a lot of upside who was top 3 in tackles this year. Linebacker, super interesting. Obviously, you mentioned safety. That entire room is being burned down to the ground. I mean, there were Chuck Clark, Ashton Davis, Tony Adams is a restricted free agent. We'll see if the Jets end up bringing him back. By the way, a salute to Real Connor Long. That's out there in the comment section, just joining us this morning. Appreciate you. Salute to Connor. But yeah, so the safety and linebacker room are two positions. The safety in particular is going to get lit on fire, and corner, to your point, you have Sauce. Is Brandon Eccles coming back? DJ Reed's gone. You got Sauce and Michael Carter II, and the rest of the room is blown up. And then it depends on what you feel about Quantez Stiggert. So, oh, yeah, there's a lot more holes on that defense that people are talking about.
Exactly. So those are like the stuff that I kind of want to, at least for myself, that I want to hear in regards to that. So that's what I wanted to ask Dylan in regards to that. The other thing, too, you kind of hit it, the running back, right? Bro, I would love to take a swing at Scattenbo from Arizona.
Oh, yeah, the Arizona kid. Yeah.
Like, if it is
Arizona
true
State,
with the whole Brees stuff and maybe he doesn't get signed back up or I don't know, whatever, right? I mean, I think we're good with the RB. I really like Braylon Allen a lot. You know, the big type of bruising type of running back in regards. I love Brees. Don't get it twisted, but
sure.
That I don't know, man. That dude puts another dynamic into that running back core with him and Isaiah Davis as well. So appreciate you, BG, as always, man. Wanted to come through, show some love.
Appreciate it.
Awesome, bro. Dylan was killing it, man. Real talk.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, keep doing your thing, bro. Peace.
Appreciate you. There you go, Johnny boy. Appreciate you. Yeah, Dylan's still in the chat. Yeah, I will say for me, this is Dylan's first time on Boy Green Daily. Awesome to have him. I thought he was super insightful. Brought a lot to the table. I'd love to have Dylan on more often. Schedule pending for Dylan and all the other work and things that he has going on. So that was wonderful. So, like I said, we'll go back and I'll talk to Dylan. I'll see all the dirty secrets you couldn't say on air and tell me privately, and I will never share those with you people. But I will get a good smile out of it, and then we'll see if we can have Dylan back on the show because that was a real treat. Dylan was amazing. All right, let's go back to the phone. Let's got NY Jets FL here on the show. What's up, Ted?
Paul, good morning. I thought about you this morning when I came into my firework trailer, and I'll show you what I mean. Just tell me if you can see this.
Okay, wait. Oz. I see Oz Rock. That's what I'm seeing.
Oh, okay. Down a little.
Oh.
So I need you to see the picture on the box.
Oh, wait. Just scroll down a little, or not scroll down. Just move your phone down a little bit. Oh, there you go. Look at that guy. Huh?
I think they stole your image on that firework box.
I think we're gonna have to do a trademark appeal there, but we'll have that conversation off air with our lawyers.
Firstly, shout out to June and GM. June, when you start your channel, which it sounds like you're doing the legwork for that, I will sub to it. Paul, we're gonna have a very uncomfortable conversation about Garrett Wilson being traded, and I'm not advocating for it. Advocating for it, but unfortunately he came in at the wrong time, and now we're kind of in a state of flux. And when I'm not sure where that puts Garrett, especially if Garrett's going to play with Jameis Winston. I don't know how happy he's going to be about that, and playing behind a developmental quarterback, with a developmental quarterback. That's the only thing I'm really concerned with. I'm seeing a lot of chatter about Carolina trying to use number 8 to get Garrett, and possibly they'd have to sweeten that with a second or a third. Like I said, I'm not advocating for it. This is a business, but unfortunately, Garrett was drafted in kind of the wrong year for us. It didn't work out. So I wanted your opinion on that. Let's start with that one.
Yeah. So as intriguing as a top 10 pick and whatever else would come in, Garrett is a special time. I see what you're saying with the quarterback uncertainty and everything that we've had. For Garrett coming in, would it have been perfect if we had, I don't know, insert your favorite Jets quarterback in history and Garrett Wilson being paired with, so his talents and everything are maximized, of course. To me, I want to keep Garrett Wilson at all costs. Rich Cimini just had a piece that dropped this morning that Garrett Wilson's chances of sticking around with the team have dramatically increased with Aaron Rodgers gone. And I thought that was fascinating that he put that in there. So that which again obviously means the exodus of Devontae Adams and things of that nature. I'll be curious because I think Garrett Wilson should be a part of the quarterback conversation in terms of like when we're kind of vet, and I don't think AG is going to do this. Obviously, with how he's cracking the whip, I don't think this is going to be a factor. But I just hope that we get a quarterback that gives Garrett Wilson chances. That's why Jameis Winston is a crazy bastard. But boy, he takes vertical shots, which I would love to see. We haven't seen a lot of Garrett Wilson 80-yard bombs to the house. I got to see being in Dallas. I got to see the Jets-Cowboys game where Garrett Wilson took a slant and booked it to the hizzy on his own ability, not some great design where he was wide open. Garrett just made a play. But I would love to see more shots where we're able to see that part of his game. We see it for all the other top receivers in football that get these bomb touchdowns. Garrett doesn't get those ops very often. So I wonder if Jameis Winston would be exciting to him because he's got a rocket arm. He's going to turn it all over God's earth. But, it would be interesting to see that because I just don't, like Tyrod takes shots, but again, it's hard to really have a good judgment on Tyrod. We haven't seen him in full flower in like 7 years. So what kind of quarterback is he still now? It's really impossible to say what we're going to see. I just hope we get a quarterback that gives Garrett opportunities. And obviously, he's going to be the clear wide receiver one. This room is about to blow up. Devontae is going to be gone. Lazard's going to be gone. And our top 3 receivers are about to be Xavier Gibson, Malachi Corley, and Garrett Wilson. God help us all. So we need some more happening in that room. But again, intriguing offer that you present from Carolina. And why wouldn't I agree with you? Carolina would be desperate enough to give all kinds of things because they want to surround Bryce Young with as much talent as possible. And they probably regret slapping DJ Moore on the trade to the Bears. So I'm sure they'd be willing to pay the iron price. But to me, there is no iron price that exists that I would want to get rid of Garrett Wilson. And maybe that's where it comes, right? I say there's no package available. And then someone goes like 3 first-round picks or something crazy. I go, okay, well, let's chat. Everybody's got a price, $1 million man. Ha, 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 ha. Every man has a price. Maybe that's it. I just haven't heard that price.
That is true. I understand. Like I said, I'm not really advocating for it. It is still a business.
Yeah.
But you're right. I don't want to foresee Garrett getting 1,000 yards next year and be disgruntled, with Jameis Winston. Say he gets 1,000 yards again. I'm giving you a theoretical,
right.
He may get 1,500, right? I would love it if he got 1,500 or 1,800. But if he goes out and gets 1,000 yards and, his value's going down and you see what talent he's got, I don't know how happy he's going to be. It's not a reason to trade him. It's just a reason to consider that he got drafted unfortunately on a bad franchise in a tough year for us. It was supposed to be Zach Wilson and him, riding off to the sunset. So, all right, Paul. Well, that's all I got. I just wanted to show you my firework box. So, I'm agreeing with your host about the drafting 2 defensive players in the early in the draft. I'm down with that. So, oh, by the way, Carlton Davis from the Lions is a corner that has a ring, is coming off a broken jaw. He played for the Bucs, got a ring. He was on the Lions staff. He's only 28. That's the kind of guy I would grab immediately.
Yeah, he would be an intriguing guy. I appreciate it. Yes, Carlton Davis is going to be out there. It's going to be some rich money. Those corners are going to get a lot of bag. So be curious. Yeah, he's basically DJ Reed's age. That'll be curious to see if the Jets. So the Jets have a whole corner, obviously. DJ Reed is leaving. Do they fill it with a veteran? Do they give it a chance with a rookie? Does Quantez Stiggers seize that role? Do they go after an Ifeatu Melifonwu who has both corner and safety versatility? I'll be super curious to see what happens there. Walter, I see this comment coming in on the Heavy on Jets Facebook page. Ask about what about Jordan Travis? Connor Hughes, I just saw he mentioned this a couple days ago on a late SNY TV hit. They called him an intriguing possibility, but not someone you could consider at all in the quarterback conversation because of his injuries and the setbacks to injuries. So that one's sort of up in the air, Walter. It'd be a great random mystery, right? If Jordan Travis ends up being a factor in this quarterback competition, we'll see. Again, here's how the quarterback room, I view it, going to be in 2025 in some form or fashion. It's going to be Tyrod Taylor in no particular order. It's going to be Tyrod Taylor, It's going to be Jordan Travis. There's going to be a rookie somewhere in there. Again, it doesn't have to be 7th overall, but it'll be somewhere in there. And then it's going to wrap up with a veteran that would be competing with Tyrod and maybe Jordan Travis. I don't know. But that will all be competing for that starting job. Again, it's hard to envision it for Travis. It's hard. Hell, Jordan Travis might get cut and be on the practice squad. It's all going to depend on the development. But again, this current staff and regime has no ties to him whatsoever from that perspective. Again, I want to give a shout out to the 500 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe. I think we got one more caller. Let me try this. BG?
Yes, sir.
Oh, hey, what's up, brother? What's going on?
Oh, I just want to know, why does everybody want to trade Garrett Wilson? I'm not trading Garrett Wilson. Never.
Yeah.
You couldn't
We've gotten a
trade
lot
me the
of
moon and
thoughts
stuff.
about that. Yeah, a lot of ideas about that.
Well, I'm going to take up his 5th-year option, and then I'm going to tag him, and then I'm going to tag him again. So he ain't
100%.
not going anywhere.
Yeah,
No,
that's a thing I don't think, and not on Ted. He just was bringing it up, but like the Jets are going to pick up his 5th-year option in early May or sooner. So that means they would have 2 years left of team control minimum, 2025, 2026. Then after that, you could franchise tag him 3 times. So the Jets could hold his rights for the next 5 years. So like, and again, even if Garrett Wilson were to request a trade, we have no idea if that's going to happen. But even if he did, the Jets wouldn't have to reciprocate and say, okay, Garrett, you're the boss. We'll send you wherever you want. Like, I hope it never reaches that point. I would give him seismic money. He's the best Jets receiver we've had production-wise in his first 3 years of his career. Man, I want Garrett to retire a Jet. I want him to be here for his entire career, and I don't care what packages or offers come. Whether we're a good team, bad team, or anything, I want Garrett Wilson on it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate the call,
man.
BG.
I'm excited.
Yeah, go ahead,
who are
man.
you looking forward to in the draft?
There's a lot of different positions. I'm very much looking forward to the NFL Combine. That's an event I really enjoy. Actually, I'm going to have the house alone during the Combine. My family in the house, my fiance and children are all going to a trip to Massachusetts. So I'm going to be all alone at the house doing Boy Green Daily shows and Combine coverage. So I'm very much looking forward to just kind of hunkering down and taking in as much intel as possible. The NFL Combine is great with Rich Eisen and Daniel Jeremiah. They have coaches, GMs, and everything else in studio as they're talking about the prospects. So there should be a ton of information coming out of that. So I'm really excited. There's a bunch of Syracuse guys. I think there's 5 or 6 that are going to be in Indy, but I'm looking forward to everybody down there.
Oh, glad to hear. What, your wife said you're not invited?
That's right. That's exactly it. Yeah, she's going with the in-laws. So, hey, if I'm not invited, that's up to the gods. So there you go.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I was also thinking everybody wants to take a defensive tackle up at the top of the draft. I'm like, it's deep. You got to. I'm one of that Starks character at safety.
Oh, Malachi Stark. Sure. Yeah. Georgia kid.
Oh, I think we just need to run stuff.
Okay. So. I love it. Thanks for the call, BG. Good stuff, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think, to be honest, just to go back to Indy's point, I think you can make a strong argument both ways. Okay. So in case you guys missed that call. So Dylan Terraman and several others have said, hey, let's go defense 7 and 42. Those are the Jets' first 2 picks, first round, second round. Let's go defense and get the best players available, basically blue chip players, and then add them in. So you add those to the table. Indy called in and said, hey, man, Aaron Glenn's a defensive coach. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. He made chicken salad out of chicken shit last year. He had all these randos playing, and the defense wasn't half bad. He doesn't need elite level talent to work. And plus, by the way, he already has it. You got Sauce Gardner, you got Quincy Williams, you got Quinton Williams, you got Will McDonald, you got Jermaine Johnson, you got all kinds of fun talent. Michael Carter II, you got all kinds of talent on defense. He doesn't need the top picks, the top assets, the top resources to invest. Let's go in different directions and allow Aaron Glenn just to make of what he will with the roster, which, by the way, that's a compelling case, Indy. So salute to Indy for that. June, the GM, said, no sweet love for you that week, Paul. That's for damn sure, June. It's going to be a lot of alone time with BG and with all of you guys, but maybe not in that light. Different strokes. Anywho, Philly Noodles, a cup of Philly Noodles, gifting a Boy Green Coffee Club membership. We love it. Yeah, thank you Cup of Philly Noodles. That's a raffle ticket to our contest, baby. We appreciate it. Again, that is for the Aaron Rodgers and everything else signature football. That's got the whole team on there as well. So Sauce Gardner, Brees, all those cats. Those are all available on that signature football as well. That membership, by the way, went to Sean Johnson. Sean Johnson, you just got a Boyd Green Coffee Club membership thanks to our guy Cup of Philly Noodles. So beautiful. Excellent. Thank you, Philly Noodles, for the support. You now have 2 raffle tickets so far for the contest this month. God bless. Appreciate you. Well, everybody, I want to thank you so much for the show. It was a super fun show. Again, another shout out to Dylan. We're going to have him back on the program. That was an absolute treat. Make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. That's a free way to contribute. Again, I really appreciate the people that can dig into their pockets, of course, because it helps support the show. It allows me to do what I do. But I also appreciate the people that if you just enjoy the show, but you can't afford to contribute in that way, it means a lot to be able to support it by liking the video and hitting subscribe so we can spread this show to as many Jet fans as possible. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. Dom C returns. We got a mock draft Monday, baby. We'll get right back into the draft action here on the program. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.